I guess in some respects, I understand that it could still be kept a closed forum on Facebook Live. So the session would be available only by invite or something like that. I'm not sure how it works, but I understand that only people who are participating will be allowed to participate, and we can stop other people from watching them, if you know what I'm saying. So the question really for everyone is, um, are you happy to then move on to Facebook, um, to run these, to participate in these sessions?
I mean, one thing I'd like to add, I personally think it would be better just to keep it as the group that we have, even if we transfer to Facebook, because if someone new joins in at this point, it's going to be a little bit difficult for them to understand what we're talking about, because they don't know anything that's gone on previous. And I don't want to go back to basics just for one person that joins in or something. Everyone else is not going to be happy with that. If I keep having to go back, every week if someone different turns up, I don't want to have to keep, retracing my steps and everything like that. It's not going to be good. So I personally think that even if we do move it, just still keep it as the same sort of group that we have now on Skype. Of course, if you want to invite one of your friends or whatever to join in or whatever, that's okay. If you think that they'd benefit from it, that's okay. But I don't think I want to open it up. Opening it up, I might do something different, and connect up something different to our Krishna Culture Educational Foundation, to that trust that was set up. We might do cooking classes that opened everyone, or some, something about chanting or whatever like that, open to everyone. For this soul searching thing, I think I'd like to keep it just as we are. And also, if someone like Bob, you don't have a Facebook account, isn't it?
I can organise it, or Claire can.
Oh, she can? Okay. Otherwise, I was going to say, anyone that didn't have a Facebook account, if you don't know how to set it up, someone that's technologically savvy could help whoever needs help. But like if Claire can help Bob, that's great. Otherwise, someone else can help Bob or anyone like that. So, yeah, now we hand it over to you, gentlemen and gentle ladies. What do you think?
I think I agree with you, Ave Prabhu, because we don't know the Facebook that who's going to be new person coming and how sincere they are and what's their level of understanding. So we all dragging into that one. I agree with you. So I think we have to have opened this account as well, or we're doing for more than a year or so.
Yeah.
So continue with this one. Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay, good.
So, Gulshan Prabhu, you already have an account, is it, on Facebook?
No, I don't.
So you're going to be creating one and joining us, or how's that going to work?
I was thinking that because I'm happy with this Skype, and then I understanding that because in the Facebook, the people were coming there, the people may not be on the same level of that, and then how sincere they are.
Yeah, I mean,
so,
I'd like to just try it out. If it doesn't work, we can always come back to Skype if it doesn't work out. But okay, if we can keep it closed on Facebook, I don't see any problem there. I'd have to try it before we find out. But if we can keep it closed, and but like Johnny says, the main advantage is we can keep the recordings. Like if people miss out on the talk and they want to catch up later, it'll always be there. So that's an advantage. Otherwise,
okay. I'll open the Facebook account. That's no problem.
I think with I did a bit of research, and from my experience, I was trying to think at the farm, because we do Facebook Live at the farm, right? You know how they have the kirtan. I think if Abhay did if he did Facebook Live, he would be talking, but I don't think he'd be able to see us.
Yeah, I was also under that impression, Bhakti Bala. And I did raise that with Neelkantha Priya.
Yeah.
But she said that everyone had to log into that particular discussion, and they can I mean, that you can open access for people to access those discussions live. So
because what I was reading is that you can comment, like Abhay would be talking and we could make comments.
Yeah, see, that's why I was a bit hesitant with this whole thing, because I've seen a lot of people who do this on Facebook, and usually people will write their questions or comments or send emoticons, you know, saying I love this or whatever, but they are not part of that discussion.
No.
Okay, so I did raise that as a point with Neelkantha Priya, and but the way she explained it to me was that apparently each of the participants, if they can access and become part of that discussion as though they are talking as well. Now I need to check that out, and that's the other thing. If that is not possible, then we'll just have to stick with Skype. We can't do that because this is such a good forum.
Yeah, I
because
like
it's
it
very
interactive. Yeah.
you know. You don't want just people typing in something, and yeah, I don't know. I agree, you know, then we'll just have to stick with Skype.
Look, I'm happy to, even if that's what you guys want to do, I'm happy to move it to do it on Facebook. I just wanted to make sure that's, like I was telling you what I read, and like, so
No, that's fine, but you're right.
Yeah.
We both are of the impression that it needs to be interactive, face to face, like we are having it now, rather than people just typing in comments or asking questions, typing and asking questions. It's nice when we can see each other and we can talk like this.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
Abhay Prabhu feels that same way. So yeah, so we would rather, if that was not possible on Facebook Live, we would just come back to Skype.
But Neelkantha Priya is saying it is possible, so we'll give her
Yeah.
the benefit of the doubt, and if she can get that happening,
Yeah.
then it sounds good. We could try it out. If it doesn't work out the way she says, then we'll just come back to Skype.
Yeah.
How does that sound?
And will it be the same day and time?
Yeah.
Same day.
Yeah, same. If that works for, if the Thursday afternoon's still working out all right for all of you, then I mean it's fine for me. I'm flexible because I'm sort of self-employed. So yeah, I'm flexible. So just a matter of whether it works for you. And we also have the Saturday one, which will continue that as well on Ishupanishad. So yeah, same day, same times.
When you try to upload these videos, is there a way that you can upload them to Facebook as well, or is it only to YouTube that you can do it?
Well, I guess you can upload to Facebook. I'm not sure whether these recordings are very huge.
Okay.
So I don't know if there are any limits on Facebook or not. But irrespective of wherever you're uploading them, we can't do them from where we are currently, unless, you know, somebody else, you know, takes this on themselves and helps us out a little bit, because our internet connection here is not, it's just like on, what do you call it, ADSL, which is not broadband, you know, it's one technology lesser. So it's not fast enough.
Anyway, we don't really
Well, if we do come back, like after we try out Facebook, if we do come back, then I've got Wi-Fi, so I'll try and see if I can upload them, and then I mean, and maybe
And if, in that case, then, you know, that's sorted. We can still stay on Skype and just continue the way we are. Yeah. But anyway, let's try out Facebook and see. And if it doesn't work out, then we'll just come back to Skype.
Is a Zoom is better than Skype?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I mean, I've attended Zoom sessions, but I haven't.
You have to pay
conducted-
money, right? If it's more than 40
Yeah,
minutes
I
or
think
something.
if it's more than 40 minutes, you have to pay money as well.
I thought it was a good idea to put it on your Facebook page, though, where you've got your Krishna culture thing.
Yeah, but that's what we were saying. We want these. See, we have some people on that Facebook page who are not Krishna conscious, or else who are very new to Krishna conscious, and you know, having them listening to these kind of discussions, I'm not sure what they might take away from them. So we have to be careful as well, because you guys have been in this discussion for such a long time, and if somebody just comes and picks up some random discussion and they hear something and they're like, oh, this is too much, and we don't want to lose such people as well.
Yeah, well, we'll still think more about that one step at a time. Okay, I think that's covered that. I think the first step is whoever doesn't have a Facebook account, if they'd like to create one, get that ready. And then Jayanti, Neela and Neela Priya can do some more work, and then we can connect everyone to that. And
we'll just trial it and see how it goes. If it works as the way we wanted, we'll continue on Facebook Live. Otherwise, we'll just come back to Skype.
So maybe within a week, if you can create a Facebook account if you don't have one, and then next week. And
if you can please just message back maybe on Skype. Whoever's on the WhatsApp group can, of course, let us know in WhatsApp group, but maybe Bob, once you create your Facebook page, just let us know on Skype that you've created one, and then we can see. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, enough management stuff. Let's get into the real nectar.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, let's offer respect to the spiritual master. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Someone like to read the English translation for that? Who's got it there?
I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him.
Jai Shri Prabhupada. Okay, let's continue where we left off. So last week we read chapter 6, which is entitled Jnana Yoga, text number 18. So we'll just recap on that a bit, and then we'll continue on text 19. Text 19 today.
Did we finish the purport?
I don't think we did.
I don't think we did.
Oh, we didn't?
No.
Okay. Okay, so let's read text 18 again and the translation, and then we'll read the last paragraph. Okay. Okay, text 18's translation. Yada viniyatam chittam Atmanyeva vatishtate Nispraha savakamebhyo Yukta echuchate tada. Okay, Bhakti Mala, you'd like to read the English, please? Translation.
When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga.
So this is the criteria for being an advanced yogi. One is regarded as well established or advanced in yoga if one controls the mind, controls the material desires coming into the mind. And then Prabhupada mentions in the purport that of all the material desires, the sex desire is the chief one. So why is, can anyone remember, why is sex desire regarded as the biggest material desire, the chief one? Why is sex the chief?
That is so cute.
Desires.
So cute. They're resourceful. They're surviving. They're effective. That's a
What is it about sex desire that makes it the chief?
my
The greatest or biggest of all material desires?
Everything is
The
centered
Sanskrit
around it.
word is karma. Karma means material desire. And here it's got nispraha, sarva karma bhyo, sarva karma bhyo. So sarva means all, karma means desires. All desires. So of all desires, that it says sex is the chief of all desires. Why is it the chief?
Everything else is centered around it.
What's that?
Everything else is centered around it.
Yeah,
Everything else.
you could say that everything else centered around it, or you could say that once sex desire is there, then all the other desires come. Means when the man and woman come together, there's a man by himself or woman by himself. Generally, at that point, there's not so many desires. But when the man and woman are united, when the man and woman come together, are based around sex desire, and once they're intimately united like that through sex desire, then a lot of other desires come. Like, I desire to have a house now for my partner, you know, I desire to have a car to drive my partner around, and then I desire to have, you know, nice food to feed the partner, and then I desire to have children, and then, you know, so there's a lot of desires. Ato griha etc. sutapta vitaya in the 7th canto of Bhagavatam says that once sex desire is there, once it creates a knot in the heart, it said, Hridiya Grantham. It creates a knot in the heart between the male and the female. Remember, I said the male is Pumsa and the female is Striya. So, and that's in every species of life. We're not just talking about human beings, but within all the species, there's that attraction there between the Pumsa and the Striya, the male and the female. And once that attraction is there, of sex desire, then it creates a knot in the heart. And then once that knot is established there, then griha, then you want a house, etc. Then you want some land, vitaya, then you need some money. Obviously, if you want to have a house and land and all that stuff, you need money. And sutta, relatives. Then relatives come into it, and then sutapta, and children, relatives, children. So things are expanding. So the sex desire like expands out into so many desires, and also it's regarded as the chief.
right.
So that's one reason, because that's what starts off our entanglement in the material world. And also it's regarded as the chief because it's regarded as the highest pleasure, material pleasure,
So she came back.
highest material pleasure in the material world. Of course, the pleasure of sex life here on earth is very insignificant compared to going to the heavenly planets, you know, and compared to the heavenly planets, heavenly planets is very insignificant compared to the pleasure of being merged in the Brahman, of being merged into the spiritual light. And being merged in the spiritual light, you know, which is called Sayuja Mukti, that's very insignificant compared to the pleasure of Bhakti Rasa, of having a loving relationship with Krishna. So it's the greatest of the material pleasures, but it's not the greatest pleasure. I mean, we hear that great devotees like Yamanujacharya, one great acharya in our disciplic session, our parampara, He used to be a king, which means he had a lot of women and a lot of money and everything you could possibly want in terms of sense gratification. So previously he was a king, he had everything materially like that. But he became Krishna conscious, he became a devotee, and then he gave up his position as a king. And then one verse that he says is that now I'm tasting the ever new, ever fresh nectar of Krishna consciousness. Every time I think about sex life, I spit at the thought. Means it's very insignificant. Once you're, this is the higher taste principle. Once you're experiencing the higher taste, then you're not interested in the lower taste anymore. Of course, the lower taste is still attractive to us as up until you've got the higher taste. If you don't have a higher taste, then your lower taste is the higher taste. But once you've got something higher, like I said, the higher than the pleasures on earth is the higher the pleasures in heaven. Higher than the pleasures of heaven is getting liberated from material existence and merging in the Brahman. There's no birth, no old age, no disease, no death, no COVID. And then higher than that is having a loving relationship with Krishna. And so in that way, Prabhupada's saying it's the chief. But that's what the scriptures say, not just Prabhupada. But it's the chief of desires. And then, so in terms of explaining how is it that a yogi can control the desires, an example of a devotee is given, a devotee yogi. Who is the example given in this purport? Who's the devotee yogi, the bhakti yogi, given as an example of someone who is controlling the mind and the senses, engaging them in Lord's service and free from material desires? His name is there. His name is there. The long, there's 3 verses, and after the 3 verses, his name is mentioned. King, you should know him.
King Amrisha.
King Ambarisha. King Ambarisha. I have a good friend in Wellington. His name is Ambarish Maharaj Das, the servant of Ambarish Maharaj. So Ambarish was also a king, like I mentioned, this Yamanujacharya. So he was situated as a king. So it means he also has a lot of facility for sense enjoyment, sense gratification, food and big palaces and fancy clothes and women and followers and, everything. People worshipping him and everything like that, giving access to all the taxes and everything like that. But he didn't use anything for sense gratification. Why? Because he was always thinking about Krishna, and he was with his body. The first thing is to do, the very first step to become a yogi is you have to control your mind. So you have to engage the mind first. I am Krishna's servant, and I'm always thinking about Krishna. How beautiful he is, how wonderful he is, his holy names and everything like that. So the first thing is to engage the mind, and that's the first thing that's mentioned here. First of King Ambarish, first of all, have you got that? Underneath the 3 verses, it says in English, King Ambarish first of all engages mind in the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, then one after another. So that's the first thing, first engage our mind. Now, as Bhakti Yogis, how do we engage our mind?
Chanting.
Yeah, and chanting. And we can also think about, that's thinking about Krishna's names, but we can also think about other aspects of Krishna, because that's not the only aspect of Krishna, is it?
Do you mean like service?
Service, yeah. But when you're talking about a person, a person has names. What else does a person have? Yeah. Are you all just names? What else is there? Yeah, you have a body, so you can think about Krishna's form. So Krishna's name in Sanskrit is called Nama, Nama, Nama. long A, nama. Nama, and you can also think about Krishna's form, which is Rupa, R-U-P-A, Rupa. Krishna Nama, Krishna Rupa, and you can think about Krishna Guna. Guna, G-U-N-A, means qualities. What's some qualities of Krishna that you can think about? Does Krishna have qualities?
Many,
Yes,
many.
it's
He's got
never,
more than
never the
us.
end. Like, endless qualities.
Okay, okay, they're endless, but tell me some.
He's the
Loving nature, loving,
Yeah, that's
merciful.
Krishna is very loving. Yeah.
strongest.
What's
Huh?
that?
He's the strongest.
He's the strongest. Yeah, that's a quality. He's unlimitedly strong. He can lift Govardhan Hill. That's coming up in November. That pastime we lifted Govardhan Hill, exhibiting he's the strongest.
He's the most intelligent.
He's the most intelligent, even more intelligent than all of us put together.
And he would be the funniest too.
He's
Oh,
the most funniest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, whatever you can think of, Krishna has the most. I was hearing today that talking about anger,
Oh,
that Krishna is unlimitedly angry also. He's unlimited in everything. There's nothing that Krishna is not unlimited. He's not the best at everything. Like it was talking about how he assumed the incarnation of Nrsimhadev and the demigods would, because he killed the demon, right, Hiranyakashipu, but he didn't cool down after that. He was so rah! And all the demigods like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva there, they tried to pacify him, but they couldn't even get near him. He was like a blazing fire. They couldn't get near him. And then they thought, well, we'll get his wife to pacify him. That's Lakshmi, right? And so they said, Brahma said, hey, Lakshmi, go to your husband and just ask him to cool down. And she said, no, I can't. He said, I've never seen my husband like this before. He's just so angry. So even she had never seen her husband in this feature of Nrsimhadev. This form of Nrsimhadev had been manifested just for the purpose of taking out this demon that was hurting his devotee, Prahlad Maharaj. He had assumed this form never seen before. So even his wife couldn't recognize her husband. She wasn't even sure if this is my husband because he hadn't seen him looking like this before. So that was part of her chastity too, that she's not going to approach any other man other than her husband. And she couldn't recognize him. So she didn't want to take the chance that maybe I'm going to get close to someone that's not my husband. So then Brahma went to Prahlad, who's, imagine, he's only a 5-year-old boy. So all these fully grown demigods didn't want to go near him. And then they're pushing up this 5-year-old, pushing a 5-year-old towards the Lord, and who's looking like he's going to annihilate the universe. And Brahma said, look, Prahlad, he's come to save your backside, so he's here because of you. So you sort it out, you go up to him and you pacify him. He's come to, save you. So you're the best person. So Prahlad was like, no worries. He just walked right up to the feet of the Lord, with no fear whatsoever, because he knew that he's my worshipful Lord. He's come to protect me. He's not going to hurt me. And whatever he does, it's up to him. If he wants to kill me, let him kill me. So he was completely free from anxieties. And Lord Nrsimhadev just put his paw with very sharp nails, remember, because he used those sharp nails to rip Hiranyakashipu to pieces. But with his paw, he just put it on Prahlad's head, like, don't worry, it's all right. Just like patting a little dog, so, and he was completely pacified. But it was, Prabhupada was mentioning how God is also got anger also. Why not? Why can't he? Why can't he? He's the most peaceful person, and he's also the most angry person. He's the most of everything. You know, every whichever way you want to look at it. But the thing is to notice is that his anger is the only anger that's beneficial. Like when we get angry, it creates, you know, all bad reactions for the other people and for us. But when Krishna gets angry, he gets pleasure out of that. He's enjoying that. That's a kind of enjoyment for him, fighting and getting angry and fighting. And whoever he kills, they get liberated. How about that? You know, whoever, even we hear how when Krishna sucked the breast of Putana, the witch called Putana, who'd previously killed many children, you know, that, and Krishna sucked her breast and she put poison on her breast, and Krishna killed her by sucking out not only her breast milk, but sucked out her life air, which is called prana, sucked out her prana, her life air. And then she died, but she got liberated to the point where her next birth, she went to the spiritual world and became a nurse to Mother Yashoda in the spiritual world. So how about that for good? You know, that just shows how Krishna's anger, his killing is all good. It's all auspicious. It's called Shubha. Shubha means auspicious, so it's good for everyone. And Krishna has to make some arrangement to come to the material world also for that purpose, to be able to experience anger. Because there's no one to fight with in the spiritual world. Because in the spiritual world of Vaikuntha, everyone's a devotee. So Krishna doesn't fight in the spiritual world because everyone loves him, everyone's serving him. There's no one to fight with. So he makes an arrangement that his devotees come to the material world and take birth as demons so that he can fight with them. Because actually, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha's brother, they were actually originally two doorkeepers from Vaikuntha called Jai and Vijay. So Jai and Vijay were cursed by the four Kumaras to come to the material world as demons. So their first birth was Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyakasha. Second birth was Ravana and his brother Kumbhakarna. Third birth was Shishupal. Well, I just read about that in Krishna book last night. Shishupal and Dantavakra in Krishna's pastimes. So first of all came like that as Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad Maharaj like that. And then in Ram's pastimes, then they came again, the two of them. And then in Krishna's pastimes. And they were only supposed to take birth 3 times. That was the curse. You're going to take birth 3 times as demons and you're going to be killed by the Lord. But they heard, these devotees that fell into the material world, they heard that Krishna's going to incarnate again as Lord Chaitanya. So they said, oh, we want to take an extra birth just to take part in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime. So they took birth as Jagai and Madai, the two big criminals, dacoits. They're called dacoits or gundas. They were, you know, so rough and violent and created every sin under the sun. So that was 500 years ago. So they came again, that was their last birth, and they went back to the spiritual world. But it said that Krishna arranged that they be cursed and come to the material world so that he could enjoy that called Rudra Ras, that relationship of anger and fighting, so he can fight with them. And no one's good enough to fight with the Lord, not ordinary demons. No one's strong enough to fight with the Lord, any ordinary demons. So he arranges his devotee to come. Because his devotees are as powerful as him. So he arranges his devotees to come and take the mentality of a demon. But they're put under a kind of maya, under a kind of illusion, and the Lord fights with them. Yeah, so I mean, this is a little bit of a diversion, but it's interesting. So these are the qualities. These are the qualities of Krishna.
Yeah, sometimes he fights for a really long time, hey, before he kills them as well.
It's like just like a cat has a lot of fun playing with the mouse before it kills it. like that. But just, I mean, I remember I used to enjoy so much fighting with my brother when we were young. I mean, any of you had that experience when you were fighting with your siblings?
Yep.
Yeah, that's fun. Where do we get? Where does that come from? Where do we get that from? Hey, come on, bro. Let's fight it up. You know, have a wrestle. You know, where do we get that from? It comes. We're part of God, right? So because that comes from God, that's why it's in us. You know, why do we enjoy fighting? Because we're part of God, and God enjoys fighting. But the difference is because it's a perverted reflection. When we fight, it just causes more entanglement, more maya, more misery. But when God fights, it's pleasure for him and pleasure for whoever he fights. I mean, I was just reading how when Krishna killed Shishupal was given a benediction by Krishna. When Shishupal took birth, the astrologer looked at his astrological chart. It wasn't a good one. It said that your child is going to be killed by God, going to be killed by Krishna. Well, I mean, which is quite good actually. But from the mother's point of view, it's not so good that Krishna is going to kill my child. So the mother went to Krishna and said, Krishna, you know, my son is destined to be killed by you. Please, you know, go easy on him. Please be merciful. Please be kind. And Krishna said, okay, I'll let him blaspheme me, means criticize, up to 100 times. I'll tolerate up to 100 blasphemies. And after 100, then I will kill him. So, and Krishna tolerated, and he was so envious of Krishna. Actually, do you know why? Does anyone know why? There's many reasons. He was just a demon, so he's just naturally envious. But do you know particularly why he was envious of Krishna?
He wanted to be him.
That's there.
Is
Actually,
one that married the sister?
getting hot, getting warm. So one prince named Rukmi arranged to marry his sister, a beautiful princess named Rukmini, to Shishupal. He knew that Rukmini wanted to marry Krishna, and her father, Bhishmaka, also wanted the daughter to be married to Krishna. But the brother, he wanted his sister to be married to his friend, Shishupal, not to Krishna. So they arranged the marriage day and everything like this. And Rukmini was so upset, you know, she was so in distress. She sent a message to Krishna, please save me. I love you. I don't want to marry any other pile of mucus, bile, and stool. You know, I want to marry you, Transcendental Lord. So save me. I'm going to get married tomorrow. You know, come and deliver me. So she sent a message with a Brahmana to Dwarka. So Krishna was, you know, he was very attracted by her devotion, and he immediately jumped on the chariot. Daruka got the chariot ready, and they went zoom, and they went all the way to where they live, which is very far away. And then so the marriage was just about to take place that day, and then Krishna came and like whisked her off in front of all the opposing kings and everything. And all the kings in that, they were all ready because they knew Krishna might come. So they were all ready with their bows and arrows and everything like that. Krishna chose the perfect time. She had gone to, because every Kshatriyas, the kings, they would generally worship different demigods as well as worship Krishna, the main god, for some help with their material duties. So they were worshipping Durga, goddess Durga, the goddess in charge of the material world. So she was worshipping Durga, but interesting, you know, is why she worshipped Durga, not for money or, you know, any material thing, but she worshipped Durga, please give me Krishna as my husband. So she walked out of the temple after praying like that, and all the kings in that were waiting there, just wanting to have a look at her, because she was the most beautiful woman on the planet, you know, so beautiful. I mean, after Radharani, of course, but she was very beautiful. She's actually an expansion of Radharani. She's a Lakshmi. She's an expansion of Radharani. So Mahalakshmi. So, and she's fully covered, you know. She's got the sari over her head, you know, right down to covering her feet. You can't see hardly anything of her body, you know. But even what little bit they could see of her divine features, you know, they are sitting on elephants, some of them are sitting on horses, on chariots, on different vehicles like that. They fell off. Jarasandha, you know, all these different kings, they were so attracted, bewildered by her beautiful features that they fell off their horses and chariots and everything like that. They were stunned. So at that time, when they were momentarily off guard, you know, semi-conscious, Krishna came in on his chariot and just held out his arm and just picked her up and lifted her up, and then they just slowly drove off, not even in a hurry, you know. And all the kings sort of picking themselves up and picking up their swords and everything they dropped, you know, and they realized what had happened, and they went after Krishna, and Krishna by himself, he defeated all of them. As they came after him, he defeated them. He got Rukmini to hold the reins, and Krishna defeated all of them. And then so like that, because of that, you know, Shishupal was so depressed, you know, he was just about to get married to this beautiful Rukmini, and then Krishna had stolen her away. So he was an avowed enemy of Krishna. So he was always blaspheming Krishna. And this one particular time, King Yudhisthira, the eldest of the Pandavas, who was the emperor of the whole planet at that time, this is before the Battle of Kurukshetra, he was the emperor of the whole planet, before Duryodhana and his evil brothers had did the gambling match and stole away everything and exiled in the forest. So that was before that. So he was the king of the whole planet. And then yeah, so he arranged a big sacrifice. And the idea of that was to show and to invite all the great personalities from all over the earth and all over the universe. So even Lord Brahma came, Lord Shiva, Ganesh, Kartikeya, you know, the moon god, the sun god, everyone that was anyone came to this sacrifice. And it's called Rajasuya Yagya. So it's the greatest sacrifice. And that's my point. Yeah. And the first rule of this is you have to do what's called Agra Puja. Agra Puja means you have to worship the greatest person in the assembly. Whoever was assembled there, you have to worship the greatest person first. That's called the Agra Puja. And then you do the rest of the sacrifice. So they're talking about, well, who is the greatest person here? So there was different opinions, of course. So Sahadev, one of the younger of the Pandavas, he put forward that Krishna is the greatest person. And he said, you know, Krishna is the greatest person because of this reason and this reason and this reason, this reason, this reason, this reason, this reason, like that. And everyone else was so you know, had to acknowledge that it's a fact, you know, because, I mean, just all the facts that he stated, you know, he's the super soul of everyone. He created everything. He's the creator, maintainer, destroyer of everything. You know, so you can't really philosophically defeat that kind of thing, you know, that Krishna's the greatest person. So, and all the great sages and demigods said, yeah, let's go with worshipping Krishna first. So they put him up on the big seat, and they, you know, washed his King Yudhisthira, you know, washed his feet and put the water from after bathing his feet on his head and his family member's head, and they offered him an arati and everything like that, and everyone worshipped him. But seeing Krishna getting worshipped and regarded as the best person and amongst everyone was too much for Shishupal, because Shishupal was also there. So he couldn't handle Krishna getting all this respect and everything like that. So he just came out, you know, and started yelling and everything, and pulled out his sword and saying, Why are you saying Krishna's the best? You know, he's just a coward boy and he's nobody, and Lord Shiva is far better than him, and every other Tom, Dick, and Harry is better than him, and like that. So everyone, all the other kings and that were ready to like cut him to bits. You know, they all pulled out their swords and everything, and they were going to take him out. They were so angry because actually you shouldn't hear, you know, blasphemy of God or God's devotees. It's an offense. You know, a nam aparad. It's an offense to the Lord and the holy name to hear blasphemy of the Lord's devotees and the Lord. So they wanted to kill him, but Krishna was thinking that this is going to mess up the whole sacrifice, because you don't want to be having a sacrifice and there's like blood and guts everywhere. It's not really how a sacrifice is supposed to go. You're not supposed to have violence in that in a sacrifice. You know, all the Brahmanas in here, and it's not supposed to be fighting. Fighting is supposed to be done on a battlefield. That's why you'll notice, right? Where was the Battle of Kurukshetra fought?
Do you mean in India or?
It was fought in India, but was
Yeah,
it
but-
fought in a city where there's, you know, ordinary citizens, men and women, and old people and children and everything
No,
like that? Where did they fight?
It was on a field, wasn't it?
Yeah, they just fought in an empty field. It was a holy field. It was called Kurukshetra. So it's a holy place. It's a couple hours. Gulshan would know better than me. I think it's 2 or 3 hours at least from Delhi, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so it's a few hours away from Delhi. It's just nobody lives there. It's just, I mean, there is now some, but before it was just an open field. It was a holy place, but no one was living there. So you don't go and fight, you know, where there's priests and everything like that. But so Shishupal didn't want the whole sacrifice that Yudhisthira had put so much effort into getting spoiled. So he just pulled out his Sudarshan disc, you know, his chakra. He just chopped his head right off. And it was such a clean cut, there's no blood. The blood didn't fall down anywhere. It's like mystical. You know, he killed him without any like blood being spurted anywhere or anything like that. So it kept everything clean. He just chopped his head right off. And then everyone saw that the soul came out of his dead body and hovered in the sky for a few moments, and then it merged into Krishna's body. Everyone saw that. It merged into Krishna's body.
Well, you have to have eyes to look at it, you know. It's
No, Krishna gave them the eyes.
yeah,
Krishna
that's
wanted
right.
to show
Krishna gave
everyone
them
that,
eyes to see,
that I
otherwise
am the ultimate
no ordinary
shelter of
person
all
can
living
see
entities.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, Krishna gave them that divine vision to see the soul and see the soul enter into Krishna's body. So it's not going to remain in Krishna's body, but from there, you know, it's going to, you know, like I said, ultimately he was a doorkeeper from the spiritual world, Vaikuntha, so he'll go back to his position like that. But like I said, he wanted to take one more birth in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. So he's not going to stay in Krishna's body, but he did enter into Krishna's body. I mean, Krishna is the ultimate shelter of all living entities. So yeah, Krishna tolerated, but then, you know, to keep the promise he made to his mother, I'll tolerate up to 100 insults, and after that, then that's it. But it's a benediction, you know. He eventually goes back to the spiritual world, so it's beneficial. Everything Krishna does, even his anger, is beneficial. So yeah, we're talking about what a devotee can think about. You know, so you can think about like this, you know, the Lord's qualities, that he's the most peaceful, he's the most angry, he's the most beautiful, he's the most strongest, like that. His beautiful form, Rupa, yeah, is so beautiful. Krishna is known as Sham Sundar. Sundar means beautiful, like a sham, like a heavy rain cloud. We've had lots of that around where we are recently, heavy rain clouds. So it's very beautiful, Sham Sundar. Or Manohar. I made a sweet recently for Krishna's birthday, Janmashtami. It's called Manohar Laddu. Mana means mind, like we have a Manapati at the farm, right? Manapati means the Lord of the mind.
Oh wow!
Pati means the Lord.
I don't see that he's the Lord of the mind. Oh wow!
No, but Manapati Das means a servant of the Lord of the mind.
Okay.
Krishna is the Lord of the mind.
Okay.
He's the control of the mind. So we're supposed to be the servant of the Lord of the mind, like that. So, but yeah, one of Krishna's names is Manohar. So Mana means mind and Har means steal. Steals, one of Krishna's qualities, he steals our mind. How does he steal our mind? Because of his beauty. It just steals it. Like I've told you the past time before, right? When Kamdev comes to Vrindavan, you know, remember that one? That Kamdev, Cupid, the god of love, he'd heard that there's someone more beautiful than him in the material world had appeared, and that was Krishna. No, can't be. Someone more beautiful than me? That's impossible. I'll go to Vrindavan and show this Krishna who's who, you know, because his idea was to go there with his arrows because he has a bow and arrows. And whoever he fires the arrow at, do you know what happens?
They fell in love with him.
They can get the ignorance.
Well, not really ignorance. What did you say, Deepa?
Maya.
Well, whoever he fires the arrow at is meant to fall in love with him.
Yeah, well, he's going to fall in love with whoever he wants him to fall in love with. You know, so he'll fire arrows generally at two people, you know, one man, one woman, and they both become attracted to each other, you know. And
But these days he fired at men and men as well.
That's Kali Yuga, yeah. Kali Yuga, yeah. Okay, so yeah, Krishna went there, and I mean Cupid went there, and Krishna's always surrounded by loving devotees, so he couldn't see him for a long time. But Krishna knew what Cupid had come to do, so he thought, oh, okay, well, let's give Cupid a quick look. So Krishna arranged that all of his unlimited devotees, they just parted a little bit of a gap, and Cupid just caught a glance, just like a sidelong glance of Krishna, of Shyam Sundar. And he was ready with his bow and arrows. But when he saw Krishna, do you know what happened?
Fainted.
He dropped his bow and arrow and fainted. Because it's just so beautiful. When that beautiful form went into his eyes and into his mind, you know, through the eyes, it goes into the mind, right? You know, the form. And then it just overload. It just what do you call it? It just crashed the, what do you call it? The hard drive or whatever.
It's a hypnotize.
What's that?
Hypnotize.
Like recently, one of the banks in New Zealand, Kiwi Bank, and also something else, New Zealand Post Office or something. Some people they crashed their websites. They just flood it. They just flood the website with all the spam stuff, right? They just fill it up spam into the website, and that just crashes the, what do you call it? The database, or what do you call it? Hard something. I can't remember. I'm not very good with technology. But anyway, these scam people, they've managed to crash like two big websites, you know, of previously they did it for the hospitals. They crashed the hospital's website. Now they've crashed the bank's website and the post office website. Just flooded it, and it just the server, I think you call it, can't handle all these things coming in. It just crashes it. So it's like that. All the beauty, just the unlimited beauty going into his mind, just overloaded his mind, and it just crashed his system. He just fell unconscious. You know, Krishna showed him who's the most beautiful. You know, so like that. So that's his qualities, his form, and then Lila, Lila. So we can think about those things, the pastimes. Think about the pastimes of the Lord. So you can think about the names of the Lord. Of course, there's unlimited names. Like there's one song called Vishnu Sahasranama. That means 1,000 names of Vishnu. And he's got more than that. You know, that's not the names of Krishna. That's just the different names of Vishnu. And then there's so many names, unlimited names of Krishna, and, you know, there's different incarnations. And so unlimited names. You can think about those names. Of course, we mainly think about three, Hare Krishna and Rama, like that. And then, the beautiful form of the Lord, Rupa, the qualities, Guna, the pastimes, like that Lila, so many pastimes. And that way we can completely engage our mind 24/7. Either you're chanting, you're engaging your mind, or you're looking at the beautiful deity form in the temple or in your house, so that you're engaging your mind in that, and looking at the deities. Like Lord Chaitanya, he would go to Jagannath Puri, he would go into the Jagannath Puri temple. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to go inside there, but we were outside it. But many people go inside it. So he was going inside 500 years ago, and he would just spend hours just looking at Jagannath. And when he saw Jagannath, he was seeing Krishna. He was seeing Krishna, because Jagannath is Krishna. But he was seeing Krishna. So he would look at Krishna for hours. Of course, Lord Chaitanya is also Krishna, but in the mood of Radharani. So Krishna in the mood of Radharani was looking at Krishna, and so captivated. And sometimes he would faint. When he first went there, he came from Mayapur, from Navadvip. First time he went, when he took sannyas at the age of 24, he walked to Jagannath Puri. And when he first went into the Jagannath Puri temple, he danced like a madman, and then he fainted. He went unconscious. And one of the main servants of the temple, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, had him picked up and took him to his house, because they thought he might have died. They didn't know he went into an ecstasy. They thought that he's taken too many drugs or something, or he died or something like that. So then they took him to his house, and then he held a cotton swab under his nose. That's a good way of telling if someone's alive, because the cotton obviously moves very easily. So that there was a little bit of air movement from his nose, and because the cotton was moving, so they could see the cotton was moving. So they were relieved that he wasn't dead, but actually he was in ecstasy. Later on, some devotees of Lord Chaitanya caught up to him, found out he was there in Sarvabhauma's house, and said to Sarvabhauma and the other people there, "Don't worry, he's not dead. He's just in ecstasy." He's gone into samadhi. He's gone into like this trance-like state. So that's the highest stage of yoga. Like if you look at Astanga Yoga, we're looking now at this chapter, Astanga Yoga system. So the 8th anga, the last anga, is called samadhi. So that means you go into a trance-like state. All the external body and the senses shut down. There's no external movement. And your mind is just, and spiritual senses are just absorbed in the object of the Lord. So that's the perfection of yoga, samadhi. And that's actually being talked about in the next verses after, in a short while, 1 or 2 verses ahead, is talking about that up to samadhi, text 23. Like that. So, yeah. Overload, so beautiful. So yeah, Krishna has many pastimes. So one can think about these things, the names, qualities, form. Oh yeah, I was saying, you can go to the temple, in your own house, have a temple, and just engage your mind in that way, looking at the beautiful form. When you look at the beautiful form of the Lord, where do you start looking?
From the feet.
From the feet. You first look at the feet of the Lord, then you work your way up. The legs of the Lord, the waist of the Lord, the chest of the Lord, the arms of the Lord, the head of the Lord, like that. Finish with the face of the Lord. You look at it in more detail, the mouth of the Lord, the nose of the Lord, the eyes of the Lord, the eyebrows of the Lord, the hair of the Lord. So complete meditation, for engaging the mind, always thinking about these things. This is what the mind is meant to be doing, not thinking about, oh, what am I going to eat today? Oh, when am I going to go to work? When am I going to go to sleep? Like that. It's such a waste of our mental energy. We're supposed to be thinking about the Lord. That's why we're talking about in the previous verses about regulating all of our activities. You regulate that because you don't have to think about them anymore. It just becomes automatic. Okay, now I'm going to work. Now I'm going to brush my teeth. Now I'm going to eat. To think about all these things. You just make them, so regulated, so fixed up. And then while you're doing all your activities, you can be thinking about these things, thinking about the beautiful feet of the Lord, the beautiful waist of the Lord, the head of the Lord, his pastimes of the Lord. You can be thinking about him lifting Govardhan Hill and liberating Putana and dancing with the gopis, stealing butter and yogurt and feeding the monkeys. You can think about these things. That's what the mind is meant to do. We're chanting Hare Krishna, so this is, first of all, engage the mind. And then once you engage the mind, then everything else follows. So then it's saying here, if we want to read that again, someone to read that again. King Ambarish, first of all, engage the mind, then.
One after another, he engaged his words in describing the transcendental qualities of the Lord, his hands in mopping the temple of the Lord, his ears in hearing the activities of the Lord, his eyes in seeing the transcendental form of the Lord, his body in touching the bodies of the devotees, his sense of smell in smelling the scents of the lotus flowers offered to the Lord, his tongue in tasting the tulsi leaf offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, his legs in going places of pilgrimage and the temple of the Lord, his head is in offering obeisances unto the Lord, and his desires in executing the mission of the Lord. All these transcendental activities are quite befitting a pure devotee.
Yeah, so once the mind is engaged, then everything else follows, then all the senses and everything. If you're thinking about the Lord, naturally you're going to talk about the Lord. You're going to tell other people about the Lord. How can you talk to someone about the Lord if you don't think about him? If you don't have anything to think nothing to think about the Lord, what are you going to say? If you haven't heard about the Lord, and the beginning really is you've got to hear about the Lord. You hear about the Lord, Shravanam, and then naturally you're going to be able to talk to other people about the Lord, like that. So that's going to follow. And then your arms and your legs and your tongue and everything's automatically going to follow.
Thank you. Wait for the banana.
Oh, thank you. Okay, can I have one too?
Yeah, so this is the process. First of all, engage the mind. Savai mana Krishna padaravindayo. That's the Sanskrit. First of all, engage the mind, the lotus feet of the Lord. So thinking about the Lord, that's the very first thing, and then the senses will follow. Neelakanta Priya Mataji's joined us. Welcome. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I can't see the face.
No, that's okay. She might be busy. Does anyone want to say anything about that? One thing I wanted to say, it mentions there about touching the bodies of devotees. What's that about? Why would we want to touch the body of devotees? How is that helping us in yoga? What's the significance of touching the bodies of devotees?
Well, these days it's inappropriate, but
I was wondering if someone was going to say something about that.
yeah.
No, but this is a particularly, that if the devotees in a male body would touch the bodies of other male devotees,
Still inappropriate.
in the female body, devotees and a female yogis would touch the bodies of other female yogis, and because that's significant, because the devotees are very dear to the Lord. They're called Bhagavad Priya, Krishna Priya, Vishnu Priya. I know some devotees' names, they have those names, Vishnu Priya.
Yeah, that's
Krishna
one of the
Priya,
devotees'
Bhagavad
daughter's
Priya.
name. We went there to birthday. Her name was Vishnu Priya.
Vishnu Priya Priya means dear. So they're very dear to the Lord. So they're intimately related with the Lord, the devotee. Once you become a devotee and you're always thinking about the Lord, and you become Krishnaized, because you're always thinking about the Lord, remembering the Lord, talking about the Lord and walking to his temple and everything, your whole body becomes spiritualized too. So touching the body of a devotee is very auspicious, very purifying.
That's why we hug the devotees when I go to temple. Oh, now I know that.
Yeah, it's not just for our sense gratification, but it's service. It's service to purify ourselves. We want to purify ourselves.
How about touching the feet of the devotee? If it's a senior devotee, you can touch the
say
feet.
that too. So you touch their feet and touch and then touch your hand to your head. So after touching the feet of the devotee, you then touch your head. There she is.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
And touch your head. About touching the feet of a devotee, something to be aware of, that touching the feet of a devotee is good for who? The person whose feet are touched, or the person who's touching the feet?
I think the person who's touching the feet.
Person who's touching, it's good for them, because it's said that all your bad karma goes to the person whose feet you touch. So therefore, I don't recommend you touching people's feet if you haven't stopped doing bad karma. Because, do we want to hurt devotees? Is that devotional service?
No.
Like Prabhupada held his wrist up in 1977 when he was lying flat on his back in his bed in Krishna Balaram Mandir, Vrindavan, just before he passed away, held his hand up in the air, which was just skin on bones, no flesh in between. And he said, "Do you see this?" to the devotees. And
No.
what to say? Of course, they're seeing it. So he said, "You see this?" He said, "This is because that so many of my disciples are not following my instructions. They're not following the regulated principles." Basically that the guru takes on the any bad karma the disciples doing. Like, of course, not that Prabhupada is worried about his health, but he's doing that to try to help the disciples to improve their behavior. Because immediately that happened, you know what happened? All the devotees in the room went to the phones and called up their home temples and said, Prabhupada's saying the reason why he's suffering is because the devotees aren't getting up from Mangalarti. They're not chanting the 16 rounds. They're not following the 4 regulated principles. You better tell everyone in the temple to start, pulling their socks up, because Prabhupada's suffering like that. So, because it's not that the guru has any bad karma. He's a pure devotee, but he takes on the bad karma of, so many disciples or whatever like that. But of course, it's said at the time of initiation, of course, so much bad karma is there from before, but it's said at the time of initiation, Harinam initiation, when we take shelter of the guru, it's said that at that time, Krishna takes the bad karma. So at the time of initiation, the guru doesn't have to take on himself the bad karma of previous bad karma of the disciples. Of course, at that point, the person that's getting initiated has made a vow to chant 16 rounds and follow the 4 regulated principles. So there's no bad karma at that point. But all the previous stuff, it's said that Krishna absorbs that at the time of initiation. But it's said after initiation, then if the disciples do some things that are not good, then the guru may have to take some of them. So, along those kind of lines, if you touch someone's feet, you're actually, your bad karma goes to them, and which is good for you, but it's actually not good for the person that your feet touch. Like, I know sometimes Prabhupada would, have big public programs, and so many Indians, they have this, that's part of their culture, to touch the feet of the guru, the sadhu, the saintly person. So thousands of people would be madly trying to touch Prabhupada's feet. And usually the disciples would be like bodyguards, and trying to keep people away from just jumping on. It was like a rugby scrum. He was trying to dive on the ball, but dive on his feet, So sometimes, and a lot of times Prabhupada didn't like people touching his feet, because that's what's happening, they're giving their bad karma. Sometimes Prabhupada would allow it for people to touch his feet, because he knew that they were sincere. They wanted to give up their sinful activities and take up devotional service, so he allowed it. One time, there was this really a person coming from a really degraded background. He was attracted to coming and hearing Prabhupada and to Krishna consciousness. So he would come into the temple and hear the lectures. And devotees nicknamed him Pigpen because he was so dirty. He probably didn't take a bath and change his clothes. He just stunk. And he had long, like, hair, like dreadlock kind of, just dirty, matted hair. And a lot of people were very uncomfortable with him coming. But Prabhupada was so merciful, and he allowed everyone to come and hear and chant and take prasadam. So he was allowed to come, but no one allowed him to come close to Prabhupada because they know he's so dirty. We can't let him get near to the, pure guru like that. So they didn't let him come close. But he was so desperate to take shelter of Prabhupada that he made a plan because he knew that when they would go out like on a morning walk or something, who's the first person that would walk into the temple? What's the etiquette? The most senior person. Who's the most senior? Prabhupada, right? So Prabhupada would walk first. Like when you're walking, right, the most senior person is in the front. Even I know that, like, even when they had the Bhagavatam classes, interestingly enough, we don't really follow that anymore. But there was a system, even with a Bhagavatam class, you've got 100 devotees in the room. But who's sitting the closest to Prabhupada?
The most senior.
Yeah, the most senior. Means the sannyasis. And then behind the sun, then, then a bit more junior than the sannyasis, then more junior behind them, then the more junior behind them. And like there's a culture, there's an etiquette. So that's an etiquette, that's a rule, you're going, walking, and the most senior person is first, the guru is first, like that. So he would walk. So this was Pigpen's opportunity where he could get at Prabhupada. So he was waiting inside the temple door. So as soon as the door opened and Prabhupada walked through, he dived on Prabhupada's feet and grabbed onto Prabhupada's feet and was just screaming, yelling, Prabhupada, save me, save me, save me. He was just so sincere, just crying out. And he was literally crying and crying out, save me, and clutching on like for life, Prabhupada's feet. And all the devotees were like mortified that this dirty guy is like holding on to Prabhupada's feet. So they were going to like grab him and like rip him off and chuck him out the door. But Prabhupada saw what they were going to do and said no. So he didn't allow anyone to touch the guys. And he was just grasping on and calling out, save me. And Prabhupada chanted a whole round of japa on his beads. So for about 5 minutes, 7 minutes, with this guy holding on his feet, crying and screaming out, save me. And then after he chanted a round, he said, that's enough, you can let go now. And he let go. And then Prabhupada instructed the devotees to take him and clean him up. So they took away his clothes, probably burnt them, gave him a bath, cut off all
with
his
the jif
hair,
and the steel ball.
cut off all of his hair, and he was just so happy that Prabhupada had saved him. And he knew what was the most dear service to Prabhupada, distributing books. So he wanted to distribute books, but he was illiterate. He could hardly, read or write. He couldn't do any of that kind of stuff. Even his language was not very developed language. He couldn't even speak properly. So
Was this happen in America or India or where was this happen?
I can't, that part I can't remember where it happened. I know that Indradumna Swami was involved. He was the Sankirtan leader, so wherever he was, maybe France, I don't know. I really don't know. I can't, or America, probably America or France, I can't remember. Probably America. And then, this is very interesting. Then, so on the first day of books, right? Then at the end of every day, everyone that's distributed books, they tell how many books they distributed. I distributed 20 big books and like that, 5 small books and whatever else like that. So this pig pen, first day out on books, right? And you normally don't expect, the person first day or first week or year to do very much. It takes time usually. But the first day, he came back, he said, I distributed this many books. He did more than anyone else. And they're all like gobsmacked, how the hell, you can't even talk properly. How did you distribute so many books?
Because he was smelling like that, so people take the books and get rid of him.
No, I mean, he's cleaned up now. He's cleaned up, but he can't talk very well. He's what he said, his lines were, on the back of most books has got a picture of Prabhupada, right? On the back of most books.
Yeah.
So he would go up to the person and say, you see this man, he saved me. This man, he saved me. He saved me, this man. He was just so sincere. And the person was like, okay, I'll take the book. He was just so sincere. And they took the book and bought the book because he couldn't, materially, do much, but just his sincerity came through. Prabhupada tells about that, even, not understanding the language doesn't really matter. He said, like, imagine, there's a fire in the house and you're going to alert, other people. And imagine the other people, they don't even know the language. Is that going to be an impediment to conveying them the message that there's a fire in the house?
No.
The language doesn't matter, even if you don't have the language.
Same. Love doesn't have any language.
Yeah,
when you love
doesn't have
Krishna,
the thing, if you got
love
that
Krishna,
love,
that's it.
and that's so desperate, it doesn't matter if people don't understand what you're saying. So like that. So that's why, the devotees can be so dear to the Lord. That's what he's saying. So touching their bodies like that. So he touched Prabhupada and became so purified. Prabhupada obviously so dear to the Lord, so he touched Prabhupada. He's very fortunate, became so purified like that. But we have to be sincere. Don't just use the devotees' bodies to offload bad karma. Then Krishna knows you're trying to cheat. You're trying to cheat the system. Don't take advantage. Like it said, to commit sins on the strength of chanting the holy name is an offense, is an aparad. You shouldn't do that. If we don't want to go on too much, but yeah, so that's definitely beneficial. I know, sometimes devotees may get a sore back, massage their back, or tired feet, massage their feet, like that. You give a head massage, or different ways you can serve the bodies of devotees. Of course, like I said, woman to woman, men to men, and it's nice.
Okay, fine.
Don't try and massage me when I come in.
Oh, no, Prabhu say that,
you're doing
Bhaktimala.
men to
I
women
have
and
to.
women to men. Otherwise, I'll come over there with guns blazing like that. So, yeah. So so there's different ways that we can engage our senses. Okay. So let's read the last paragraph. We've got one more paragraph, right? Who wants to have a read? Who's ready? Read the last paragraph. So chapter 6, text 18, last paragraph.
This transcendental state may be inexpressible subjectively by the followers of the impersonalist path, but it becomes very easy and practical for a person in Krishna consciousness.
I would love to be. Yeah, no, that's great. Let's just look at my files while I'm trying to manage something.
Can't hear you.
I did a sort of
Yeah, your speaker cut out.
so it'll be good to get. But I do know because I tried to once.
transcendental engagements, the devotional service of the Lord, therefore,
But I didn't realise that you guys would actually do it for something as well. She never gave us that option.
says only the service of the Lord. The senses in the mind require engagement. Negation is not practical. Therefore, for people in general, especially those who are not in the limited order of life, transcendental engagement of
Sophie does the monthly impulses. Because isn't she? Because she says she doesn't do that either.
the body.
Yeah.
So yeah, controlling the mind. You can't just control the mind
Okay. So she
just
doesn't have
by
this
theoretical knowledge.
like
You
in
need
our
some
I thought
practical
that
engagements for the mind and the senses.
the
So that's the great advantage of Bhakti Yoga, devotional service. We have so many engagements, like I said, for our mind. We've got so much engagement for the mind and the holy name, qualities, pastimes, form of the Lord. And for the senses, well, there's so much, especially when you have a deity at your home or in the temple. I remember like being at New Gokula, always so busy. Always so busy. The temple is like, going from 4 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night, 365 days a year. So much, and then all the organization behind that, and then you've got cows to do service and look after the devotees, and there's so much service, which is, it might seem, well, that's not good, that there's so much work to do, but actually it's very good. We shouldn't see that negatively, that there's so much work to do. That's very positive, because like they say, idle mind is a devil's workshop. Prabhupada quoted that saying many times. It's so important to have lots of engagements, lots of activities for our mind and our senses, and that keeps us free from Maya. As soon as we don't have proper engagements for our mind and senses, often what happens is we get, affected by Maya. We get entangled by Maya. Prabhupada's disciples often mention that Prabhupada kept us so busy, they said. There was no time for Maya. They said that it's not that we weren't lusty or we didn't have thoughts for sense gratification or anything like that. There was just no opportunity, no time for getting in, for carrying out those, lusty desires, sense gratification or whatever. There was just no opportunity. They were just so busy. And Prabhupada knew that we all have crazy minds, and our senses are so attracted to sense gratification. Prabhupada knew that, and he gave all the devotees a very heavy load of service, and that's a blessing in disguise. That's a great blessing. He gave such challenging services to the devotees just for that purpose, to keep them so fully engaged. They'd be like 20 years old and they'd say, oh, you go to Africa and preach in Africa, make the whole of Africa Krishna conscious, or you go to China, like that. It's such difficult services. You have to just fully concentrate your mind, and it's engaging your senses and your intellect, your mind, all levels is like fully engaged. That's good. That's great. Fantastic.
Or you go to Afghanistan and then teach that Bhagavad Gita. And I'll see when you come back.
I'll teach them how to eat prasadam.
Once you go to Afghanistan, it'll be one-way ticket, Bob. They won't be back. Straight to Krishna Loka.
Actually, Prabhupada sent a devotee named Garga Muni to Pakistan. And then there was a war. After he sent him to Pakistan, then there was a war between India and Pakistan.
Yeah.
And Prabhupada was so much anxiety for his disciple. Was he still alive? And there was news that some Americans had been shot in Pakistan, and Prabhupada wasn't sure if the devotees were shot or it was someone else. So eventually Garga Muni turned up you know, and Prabhupada was so happy, and Prabhupada was like rubbing his head like a father would rub his son's head, was like so happy to have his son back. He was like just stroking his head, and it was just like such an ecstatic, you know, but he took great risks. So sometimes like that, you know, the spiritual master would give very difficult services to the devotees, and the devotees would take great risks, but they become so dear to the spiritual master, and get special mercy from the spiritual master and Krishna. So this is how we progress in Krishna consciousness, you know, by being fully engaged. We have to be fully engaged in Krishna service. That doesn't mean you have to be a temple devotee or whatever like that, but even at your own home, you know, have a deity at home and cook for the deity, and think that, you know, this is the deity's house, the deity's temple, I'm going to clean the house, keep it clean every day, do cleaning, cooking, you know, sing for the deity like that, do kirtan, you know, everything like that. I'm going to collect money for the deity, make money for the deity to maintain the expenses of the deity's house. Like that, just change your consciousness, change your thinking, and that way keep yourself engaged, keep yourself busy. And this is perfect. Grow some flowers for the deity, grow some vegetables, and, you know, make garlands or whatever takes your fancy. You know, so you have to find whatever gives you inspiration in your Krishna consciousness. And what's like they say, one man's food is another man's poison. So not that everyone's going to have the same engagements, but you have to find out what makes you tick, what turns you on, what inspires you, and do those things that inspires you in serving Krishna. And Prabhupada start off the paragraph saying, you know, the followers of the impersonalist path, they can't understand this. And it's like Prabhupada said, like licking on how do you explain to someone what honey is? You can't do it by licking on the jar.
Yeah, you have to open the
take
lid, put the
off,
finger
put
in.
your finger in,
Yeah.
and then taste it. So it's like that, like someone that doesn't do devotional service, they can never know. They can never understand the benefits, the advantages, or, you know, the results of devotional service, because they will never do devotional service. They will never chant Hare Krishna. They will never, you know, hear about Krishna's pastimes or see the deity or serve the deity or whatever like that. So for them, it's inconceivable. They can't
But
understand.
if they eat prasadam, they can feel something. It's not ordinary food.
Yeah, usually that's how you can attract the impersonalists, is somehow get prasadam into them, and then that might purify them to the point where they'll take up something else. And we've seen that. That does happen. I mean, and most of us do come from that background where we are impersonalists, where we think that there's no God, or if there is a God, but he has no form. So most of us were coming from that background, that there's just energy like that. There's just energy like that. There's no spiritual personality. So, but we got purified by taking prasadam, by associating with devotees like that. So there is a hope for them, but unless and until they start doing devotional service, and they can't really understand. Okay, would anyone like to say anything about any of these things?
All good this end.
So are you going to Afghanistan, Bob, to distribute the Gita?
No, but I think
Why not?
You should, Gulshan. This is not our philosophy. You have to teach by example.
Okay, I'll go first. I'll go first, Bob, and I'll send you ticket.
Talk too much, huh? You see, you have to go.
I was going to say, mate, you go to the Vatican and I'll go to Afghanistan.
First, I want to go to India, to Jagannath Puri.
Actually, I'll just tell you a little interesting thing about Afghanistan. That you know, the blind king in the Mahabharata, the blind king, he's mentioned here in the first chapter of the book, Dhritarashtra, the first verse, right? Yeah. Dhritarashtra. So he's the blind king. The evil son Duryodhana was his eldest son. He had 100 sons. So the eldest was Duryodhana, who was so envious of the Pandavas.
His wife from Afghanistan.
So anyway, Duryodhana was inspired in his nefarious activities by one relative called Shakuni, his uncle.
His uncle.
Shakuni. And Shakuni, his sister was married to Dhritarashtra, Gandhari. So Gandhari was related to Shakuni. So anyway, Shakuni was a real trickster with the dice. He was really good with dice. So they challenged, Duryodhana challenged him to Yudhisthira to a gambling match, and of course they lost and they were exiled, and that's all the background behind why the Battle of Kurukshetra was necessary, because they were cheated of all their kingdom and everything like that. So that's the background, the gambling match. And then eventually, of course, the Battle of Kurukshetra took place. All the 100 sons of Dhritarashtra died. So Gandhari, the mother of those 100 sons, Dhritarashtra's wife, was so struck with grief. And you know who she blamed? You know who she blamed for all of her children dying? Her brother, Shakuni. You arranged this gambling match. This is what peeved off the Pandavas. And after the gambling match, you know what happened? They tried to strip down Draupadi naked. And because of that insult to a woman, that said, because of the reaction to insulting a chaste woman was that everyone's going to die. I mean, that's how important women are, a chaste woman, especially in Vedic culture. You do anything bad against a chaste woman, mate, you've just reduced your lifespan, reduced all your pious activities, you've just flushed it down the drain. You know, everything like that, your beauty, your strength, your wealth is all flushed down the toilet, you know, if you insult a chaste woman. So like that, and then because of that, all the sons died. So she blamed Shakuni, you rascal, it's your fault. So she cursed Shakuni. And Shakuni, he was the king of Gandhar. Gandhar was the old name for Afghanistan. Afghanistan was Gandhar.
Still they call a city called the Kandahar.
Kandahar. Kandahar was the capital.
Yeah.
Kandahar, Giant is saying from downstairs. Kandahar. Yeah. So Kandahar was the capital, and Shakuni was the king of that state, and which is now Afghanistan. And she cursed that your kingdom will always be full of suffering. Well, there will never be anything good in your kingdom because of this. Because of your bad behavior, I'm cursing that your kingdom, nothing good will ever happen there. So that's the background behind Afghanistan. So, I mean, you can't really do anything good. You can't counteract Gandhari's curse. You know, it's stuffed, you know, and that just shows, you know, be careful. Don't offend devotees, you know. Don't offend a chaste woman, don't offend devotees. Otherwise, you stuff up not only yourself, but everyone around you. I mean, not only Shakuni was stuffed up, but his whole kingdom was stuffed up because of him. You know, so that's how contaminating it is, bad association. And that's why it's such an important principle in devotional service to avoid bad association, because it's so contaminating to associate with the evil people, demoniac people. Of course, we have to, you know, go to the supermarket and go to the bank and whatever else, but try not to intimately associate with demoniac people, with you know, evil people like that, materialistic people. Gianty's saying something. Yeah. Oh, Giant is saying that the etymology, or whatever you call it, the word Afghanistan comes from Afghanistan, Sanskrit. So the modern name Afghanistan comes from the Sanskrit word Afghanistan. So stan means place, and Afghan means defective. Defective. So that was the defect was caused by the king. Bad king, then everything's defective.
Hey Prabhu, I was thinking about this only today, about what you're saying about association. But I was also thinking that, because we get told so many times, don't associate with these types of people. But then I thought, well, if you didn't associate with me and I was an ultimate demon and materialistic person, then I would never have, heard about Krishna or anything like that. So I thought, well, when do we stop? What do we do?
Yeah, it seems like contradictory, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, it's like,
like contradictory.
how am I ever
But all contradictions can be resolved in Krishna consciousness. So how it works is very good point. Very good point. Of course, you're not a demon, but how it works is that the devotee gives their association to the demoniac non-devotees, not taking their association. But we give Krishna's, we don't have anything good we're giving them, but we're giving them Krishna's association. Like, what was I doing? I was giving books. So, I'm giving Krishna's association. Or we give prasadam. So that's Krishna. We give the holy name. We go out chanting on the street. So we're giving the holy name. So you're not that I myself intrinsically have anything good to give, but we're like instruments to give Krishna to the people. So and like Prabhupada said, I didn't come to the West to take anything from the West, because he criticized all the previous Indians that had left India and gone to the West. They had taken up the Western values, the Western habits, the Western money and everything they wanted, the Western money and everything like that. So he said, I didn't come to take anything from the West. I came to give them Krishna consciousness, what they have forgotten. So in that way, you're not taking on any of their bad association. You're giving them the good association of Krishna, the transcendental association. But you have to be like that, very sincere, very serious in your Krishna consciousness, that you're feeling self-sufficient. You're feeling self-satisfied, content in yourself. You don't want anything from them. You don't approach the millionaire thinking, oh, I wish I was a millionaire like you. I wish I had a beautiful partner like you. No, you think, I feel sorry that you don't have Krishna consciousness. You must be very unhappy. I want to give you Krishna consciousness. So if you can do that, then you can associate. If you can't do that, then better not to associate. So for the very new person that's not fixed up in Krishna consciousness and not fixed up in giving Krishna to others, it's recommended to avoid their association. And when you become stronger through hearing and chanting, remembering, so forth, and you become like a preacher, which is the second class. Remember, there's three classes of devotees. There's the neophyte or kanista adhikari. Then there's the middle class devotee, madhyam adhikari. And then there's the top class, first class devotee that's called uttam adhikari or mahabhagavata. So in the beginning, we're neophyte materialistic. We're don't have much strong faith yet, because we don't have a good understanding of the knowledge of the philosophy. So therefore we're weak, and we may easily go back to our old habits and swing either way. So it's recommended, avoid association of the non-devotees and just, become more purified, hearing and chanting. And then you become more fixed up on the knowledge, your faith is stronger. Then you can mix with the non-devotees and try to help them come up. But there's a saying, right? Before you catch the big fish, you have to be careful not to get wet. You know what that means? Before you catch the big fish.
I've never heard that before.
No, I never heard that.
Never heard that? Okay, no. You're a fisherman in a boat, right? Catching fish. There's two options. What are the two options? The fish is in the water. You're up here on the boat. What's the two possible outcomes?
You in the water and the fish on the boat.
Either you go in the water or the fish. If the fish is bigger than you, you're in the water. If you're bigger than the fish is in the boat. So you have to make sure you're bigger than the fish.
Well, of course we are, because Krishna is behind us. We're definitely bigger.
Potentially, not automatically. I know great
100%.
sannyasis that went to preach to beautiful women, and then they weren't a
They
sannyasi anymore.
converted.
The woman converted the sannyasi, not the other way around. So, you know, you have to be careful. And therefore, you know, we have to strictly follow the rules. Like I know, you know, Prabhupada's spiritual master Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, one of his female disciples, who was like young enough to be his granddaughter, you know, he's like whatever, 70 years old, she was like 20 or something. She said, I have a very personal question, Guru Maharaj. I need to ask you in private the question. You know what he said?
No.
No. He said, you can ask me in public, your question, but not in private. She had a husband and everything like that, but Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati refused to talk to her in private like that. So, you know, we within the rules, we can do our preaching or service or whatever within the guidelines of the parameters of Krishna consciousness like that. So yeah, in public and that we meet with people and we try to help people, give them prasada in the holy name, give them a book like that, and we pray to Krishna. I mean, Prabhupada wrote to my guru and said, when I first met you, I prayed, may this good soul may this good soul appreciate the value of Krishna consciousness. And he did. And then my guru wrote to me, and then he said, similarly, when I first met you, meaning me, he said, I prayed to Krishna, may this good soul, meaning me, appreciate the value of Krishna consciousness, and I did. You know, so the prayers, we can pray for people. We can pray, you know, like that. Pray, may my parents become Krishna conscious.
He didn't say this to me.
May my children become Krishna conscious. You know, we pray to Krishna, may this good person, you know. Because ultimately we see, of course, that, I mean, externally we say, oh, he's a demon, he's a rascal, he's like the lowest of mankind, he like this and like that, we say externally. But deep down, we know everyone's a pure soul, isn't it? Deep down, ultimately, everyone is a pure soul. Deep down, no one is a demon. No one's a rascal. I mean, now externally, because of the body we're in and mentality, we're in the external energy, Maya, we're acting like a demon. But eternally, we're not demons. Eternally, we're devotees. Everyone's a devotee. But we're just acting in that way. So we know that, you know, and Prahlad Maharaj said, I'm not going home back to Godhead alone. I want to take all these mudhas with me. Mudhas means rascals. But he's basically saying, I love these rascals. I'm not going home alone, my Lord, without taking these rascals with me. But actually, he loves the rascals. You know, and like Bhakti Mother was saying before, we were a rascal too. And the only reason why we're not a rascal now was someone, you know, devotee helped us to get out of it, you know, so like that, you know, so ultimately the preacher sees that everyone's a pure spirit soul, but now they're acting like a rascal or a demon, but they've just forgotten Krishna, and they're covered by Maya. We just try to help give them Krishna consciousness, and then they won't be a rascal anymore. But you have to draw, I mean, a preacher also sees that someone is a hardcore demon. Like my father, for example. I hope he doesn't hear this on the internet. and then, you know, we can't make him a devotee. Not possible. I mean, I can pray for him. That's all. I can't do. I mean, I sneak some prasadam. I used to sometimes. Now I can't even get close to him. I burnt my bridge, you know. And then by mentioning the very bad word God in front of him, I burnt my bridge. I can't even get near enough to slip him some prasadam anymore, you know. So, and yeah, so yeah, some people you can't, and then that's part of what the Madhyamadikari, the middle class too, that he avoids demons, because if you try to preach to a hardcore demon, they actually blaspheme, like I mentioned Shishupal. So if you mention the word God or whatever in front of demons, real hardcore demons, then they get more angry and blaspheme, and that's bad for them. So actually, out of love for them, out of love for the demons, the devotees don't preach to them. You might slip them some prasadam or whatever, but not preach to them like that. You know, you have to, like that, you have to be conscious. But if someone's innocent, see, most people are not hardcore demons, they're just innocent. So the innocent people, yeah, you can, like we were all, you know, we were just ignorant and we didn't know. We're sitting on the fence, we're like agnostic, and we just needed someone to give us some knowledge. But there are some hardcore envious people like that, you know, and they're very anti-Krishna. So those people, we just leave them alone. And we know that Maya Durga will help them. How does Maya or Durga help them?
To redirect them.
Yeah, redirect them. It's called SUFFERING.
Oh, suffering.
Suffering. Yeah. So she kicks us up the backside. Durga has a 3-pointed spear.
Trident.
Yeah, trident. Good. That's the best word. Trident. One is the Adhyatmic Klesha, Adhidaivic Klesha, Adhibautic Klesha. So one is the miseries of the body and the mind, one prong. The other one is the miseries from other living entities, and the other one, like COVID virus. And the other one is the from the material nature, like the demigods, like tornadoes, hurricanes, tsunamis. I just saw actually some news, and in July there was terrible floods in Germany and in Europe, and like nearly 200 people died. And I saw whole houses like floating down the river with everything, you know, buses and houses and everything.
Mother Nature not happy.
All news subject. Where have you been?
Yeah, so that's Durga's trident. You know, just you rascal, surrender to Krishna, otherwise I'm going to keep poking you guys.
Shiva's trident?
No, she has one too.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. But which trident was it? Shiva's or Durga? Doesn't matter.
You can fight over whose trident it was, but it doesn't really matter. But you're suffering.
Yes.
Whether it was from Durga or Shiva. Yeah. Anyway, we've gone too much over time. Sorry about that, but I got excited today. It must be because Shravanam week's coming up. There's actually ISKCON has created a Shravanam week, which means a week dedicated. This week is dedicated to hearing about Krishna. It starts, I think, on the 22nd of this month. So Neelakanta Priya Mataji was very excited that we do some more talks for that week and stuff like that. So maybe I've got excited because of that's coming up. I don't know.
Bye everyone.
Thank you
so much.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All the best, everyone.
See you on Facebook.